Paltrocast.
Good afternoon. How's your day going aside from doing press right before Thanksgiving?
Pretty good. It's been a wild ride. I'm excited for those who haven't gotten to the theaters yet to go see it over Thanksgiving. So,
Right. The movie has been buzzed about for a long time. How long did you have to keep it a secret that you were cast in the film?
cast not very long. I think like a month or something, not long at all before like deadline, released an article about it. The other details, however, had to stay secret for like over a year, but
Wow. So have you always been good at keeping secrets?
I don't know about that, but I think you work in this industry long enough and you learn that these some of these films are highly anticipated and you don't want to spoil it for the audience, so you got to save it for as long as you can.
Well, when was that filmed versus, say, The Creator or All's Well in New York or something like that?
So I filmed Hunger Games after All's Well in New York. So I was like already cast in it. I found out I was cast in it at our I think right around our wrap party for All's Well in New York, which was super exciting to be able to go to all that cast for like family at that point and tell them like I'm leaving in a week for 6 months for the Hunger Games.
Six
Uh,
months.
yeah, so that was fun. I got to tell like Elizabeth Rodriguez on set, like, I'm gonna be gone for a while because I got this thing, and she was so proud of me, and that was really exciting. And yeah, same for The Creator. It was shot before like at the tail end of the pandemic.
Wow. Okay. So that away for 6 months, I'd have to assume that's the longest you've ever been away for anything.
Yeah, well, especially because like we weren't we had to stay in Europe to shoot. So I could go to France to visit my family there, but I live in New York and I couldn't come back here for the entirety of our shoot. So yeah, it was the longest I had ever been away on set, which was hard sometimes, but overall just really exciting because I was fully immersed in the whole process of shooting this movie.
So we, the general public, have no idea what's on the cutting room floor, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
How much did you actually film for being away for 6 months?
Um, actually, from what you see, I didn't get cut that much. I actually was really pleasantly surprised. But we had like a couple weeks off here and there. And obviously, you don't shoot chronologically. So actually, the scene where I chased Tom to the gate, we shot the first part of that scene on my first day on set and the last part of that scene on my last day on set.
Wow,
Yeah.
really, really out of sequence right there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible. And so, congratulations on having a big, big credit like that. You've been able to do both TV and movies. When I was a young man, you either just did theater or film
I
or
know.
TV.
I know they used to be so separate, right?
Yeah, when you got into this, did you have a distinction like, I want to do this, or did you just want to do everything?
I don't think I knew what I wanted when I started out, to be honest. I don't think I even knew that I wanted to do film and TV. Like I loved movies and TV, but I think for a really long time I was like, oh, I'm going to be a theater actor. And I love theater, but I think the reason I did that is at that time I was still very, shy and self-conscious. And I think that the reason I took like TV and film out of the equation was because I honestly didn't think I could do it. Like I didn't think I could make it this far. And then things changed and I built my confidence and I had some really great supporters and people in my life who encouraged me, and I started doing TV little by little. But it's true, like it used to be like you were like a TV actor or a film actor, and even now like straddling both sometimes is sort of complicated. And I would love to sit here and tell you that I like strategically planned my career really carefully, but I mean, some of it's been intentional, but in terms of being able to do both, like some of that was just luck. Like I got really lucky.
Hmm. Now, when I'm used to hearing, "Hey, they moved to New York to be an actor or an actress or something like that," it's usually theater. But then over time you realize, okay, all the Dick Wolf shows for a while were here.
Yeah.
Certain things are here as well. So did you move to New York because of the theater element of it?
Yeah, I mean, I moved to New York to attend school in New York City. I grew up in France, and like there's opportunities there, but I knew that there would be more work in New York. So I kind of honestly chose New York arbitrarily, if I'm being really honest. Like my grandfather told me that he thought that's where I should go. So I followed his lead and ended up in New York. And once again, like kind of was lucky where, you know, New York didn't used to be considered like, except outside of Law and Order, of course, like the epicenter for television. And then over the course of my career, like more and more stuff started being shot in New York, so Broad City and stuff like that. And so there started to be more and more work there. And then also the industry sort of exploded where now, thanks to, you know, Zoom and stuff like this, you can kind of audition from anywhere. So I was also had access to stuff in Los Angeles without being there.
One of your other credits, which is a show that I loved, Red Oaks, was
Oh
that
wow.
actually filmed in New Jersey?
So they shot all over, but for the stuff that I shot, which was supposed to take place in Paris, we were in like New York City, like near Times Square. Isn't that wild?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That is very, very surprising right there. Because I know that a lot of the times when they show New York City, it might actually be an Atlanta set. Sometimes they
Yeah.
show Las Vegas, it's really New Mexico. You don't know anything anymore where it's filmed. But has most of your filming been done outside of New York?
Um, let me think. When I first started out, it was mostly in New York, actually. So like The Deuce, all that, obviously that was a very New York show. And then I think I started traveling with the creator. We shot in Thailand. And then this movie, obviously we were in Europe. So yeah, the creator was kind of the beginning of that. But up to that point, I got really close to booking stuff in like, you know, Atlanta, North Carolina, or even book things and then like pandemic happened or the project lost funding, like stuff like that. But outside of that, I either shot in New York, oh, and then of course Mare of Easttown, we shot in Philadelphia. So still like close by.
Wow. Okay. When you book a role that's out of town, do you usually extend it a few days to actually enjoy the city?
That depends. So like usually they actually give you, because you know, like set hours are crazy. Like maybe you go to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. So usually they're kind enough to like let you like spend a day. And sometimes you can request, you know, like to spend an extra day or two. I've been lucky that like most of my parts where I've been out of town, there was some downtime like in between shooting. So I just naturally had that built into my schedule. But I think if it wasn't there, like I absolutely would, because that's one of the really fun parts of my job is getting to like explore a new city every time you work.
Hmm. So this is a little bit of a downtime period for you because it's the holiday season. A lot of people aren't necessarily filming, but at the same time, you're doing press for what's kind of a blockbuster film. What's life like for you when you're not busy with acting and prepping for the acting?
Oh, that's a really good question. I teach, so I coach other actors. I have my own coaching practice, and
Hmm.
I teach at the Maggie Flanagan Studio. I'm an alumni of that school, and I like went to like three different schools, but like that was my favorite program. I think they really taught me so much. So I teach there. What else do I do? I cook a lot, and I bike, and I like to be outside. I spend a lot of time with my friends. So yeah, I would say, what do I do? I spend a lot of time still obsessed with acting and consuming like plays and movies and reading and art and teaching. And it's a nice little life. I love being on set more than anything else in the world, but I think I've built a life around me so that when I'm not on set, it's not too bad.
The actor of today is also very different than the actor of when I was a kid back in the
Yes.
Stone Age, where the actor used to just be an actor and that was it. And nowadays, you're finding that every lead actor also has about three screenplays written. It has two producing credits that are going to post soon to IMDb, and they
Yeah.
just directed a short, which they composed. Is that your wheelhouse too, your vernacular, where you're going, yeah, you think I'm an actress, but there's more coming?
I'm a writer. And so I like yes to what you're saying, but I think that I'm not a multi hyphenate yet. Like I would never, I don't feel confident in like directing enough to do that at this point, or producing. Those are things I could see myself doing in 10 years. But I try to like, if I'm going to be a multi hyphenate, I want to make sure I'm doing it well and make sure I'm doing it because I really, really care about it and not just to stay busy. That's really important to me. I love writing, and I went to the Labyrinth Summer Intensive, and they really taught me how to be a playwright and a screenwriter. So I think a big dream of mine is to write a show that I also get to act in.
Hmm. Now back to the craft here, because
Sure.
you're not the nicest person in the world in Hunger Games.
Hi.
We can say that. But my experience as somebody who's interviewed a lot of villains, a lot of professional wrestlers, is generally the meaner they are on camera, the nicer the human being possible off camera. Do you find that as well, that the villains are the nicest people on earth?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say kind, maybe not nice. And what I mean by that is like, I think that people who know me well, when they watch me as Coral, they might be like, holy moly, but they still recognize some of the grit and things. Not that I would ever be like that in real life, but there's still elements of that character I think that people from my personal life recognize, but I would say but geared towards other things, if you know what I mean, towards injustice, like kind of on the flip side of that. And I think that's true for a lot of people who play villains. They can connect to that passion, but maybe it translates in a different way. But yes, usually kind people, because I think also if to play a villain, you have to have a lot of compassion for some very complicated people, and in order to do that, you have to be a little bit self-reflective.
Hmm. Now, do you want to be a career villain? And if the answer is no, why would I? But some people just love being the bad guy or whatever the term is, and because it's the easiest thing for them to do. And people don't in real life, they avoid them at all costs because they assume they're that way in everyday life.
You know what's interesting? I get asked this question a lot. And I think that when I was starting out as an actor, I was really concerned with type and how other people saw me. And I think that I don't really worry about that anymore. Because, for instance, I don't see the characters I play as villains. Like, they're not nice people, and I get that. But I don't approach them that way. So I don't aspire to not play villains. If I am going to play a character that does things that are bad, I want it to be in service of a good narrative. And I
Yeah.
don't aspire to not play villains. I aspire to play different villains.
Hmm. One more craft question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm curious, are you easily able, as somebody who can now teach, you spoil that adage of those who can't do, teach, those who can't teach, do. You spoil that because obviously you're working and you're teaching. But are you able to turn the character off easily? Like when they go cut, within 90 seconds, are you able to be the real human being again? Or is it tough for you to do that at this point?
Yeah, I think it's easy for me. I think it's only hard if it's a scene where you go really deep, or you're like, if you're hyperventilating and crying, you can't just be like, and see, it's just like it takes maybe a second of recovery. But I don't believe in, like, no matter what you have to do to recover, I think that's your job, whether it's like have a cup of tea, go to the bathroom, take deep breaths. But I don't believe at throwing that, making that other people's responsibility, because part of your job as an actor isn't just to make the character alive, it's to be a professional, like, pleasant person on set. And so for me, like, getting out of character and doing whatever I have to do to be present with the people around me is also a part of my job. So sometimes it takes a second, but it's my job to figure out how to do that quickly and get back into the swing of things.
Hmm. Okay, well, one last question. And as a person who does go out to see theater, do you have any recommendations at the moment of, hey, you should see this show? Because it is very hard to keep up these days. We know that Chicago's never going away from Broadway, but there's got to be other stuff to see.
Yeah, so I just saw Gutenberg. My girlfriend works at that theater, the James Earl Jones Theater. It's really funny. It's a great time, but they put on a lot of really great shows there. What was the show that I saw? Oh, The Collaboration, which is no longer in theater, but that was really amazing. But yeah, check out a lot of the street plays that are happening, on Broadway, but also off Broadway. There's some amazing stuff out there to be seen.
And in closing, the best way for us to find out about the next role or the project at the right time, is it checking the deadline.com variety embargo lifts, or is it you on Instagram, or what's the best way?
Probably me on Instagram. I'll probably spoil it before. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, which is my first and last name. But if not, hopefully Deadline and stuff. I have a movie coming out, I think in 2024, the All's Well in New York. So yeah, you can be on the lookout for that. I'll be posting about it soon, hopefully.
Paltrocast.